Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Shut Up and Talk to Me, the podcast, and we're giggly.
We are giggly.
We've been giggly. We've been gone for 2 weeks. I don't know if anyone noticed, but yeah, I got really sick, and Dan over here,
You were sick, and I had plenty of stuff to fill the time, so. I went to the gym more, so I could get these sweet guns.
You got the big rip? Big rips. Yeah.
It's fucking nothing.
See these fucking muscles. Anyways.
That was a really good bit for an audio format.
Yeah, that was awful. What are you thinking?
Don't know. Anyways. You're Chris.
I'm Chris.
I'm Dan.
You're Dan. This is Shut Up and Talk to Me, and this is episode 8.
Episode 8.
Yeah, finally coming out a couple weeks late, but that's okay. We're allowed to take time off.
Is it supposed to rain? It rained today.
Fuck it. It fucking rained today, dude.
It didn't rain last week.
Going back on last week.
It didn't rain last week.
It didn't
going
rain
back on last
2
episode.
Weeks.
Not last week.
Right, sorry. Going back on last episode, we talked a lot about how it rained every time we did the podcast, and yeah, it
did rain. The first week that we were off, it did rain.
Okay, I don't remember.
Just a little bit. It was a little bit cloudy, but yeah, last week it didn't rain.
Well, fucking what about that?
Right, like apparently we just can't take more than a week off.
Yeah, that's a game changer right there.
Right, we'll be in a drought forever. If we ever take a break from podcasting again, there will be no water here for food.
Well, shit. Well,
we have to just play through the pain from now. If you're sick, it doesn't matter.
If you hear about that, hold on. So I want to bring this up. Here in Colorado, we're now finally allowed to collect rain.
Oh, did we finally make it out of a drought?
Yeah, like we're at the point where like we can hold like 3 like 50-gallon barrels, I think it is. Like yeah, I don't know, like it's a huge thing for like survivability, etc. But you know.
But also, like I like that you're just like somebody out there with like 3 50-gallon drums. I know somebody is. They're just like filling up these drums.
Yeah, well, you just set them aside. Usually, like tarp it down into the drum and. Like, you can actually kind of, like, filter it yourself almost a little bit, depending on how hard the rain is. But, yeah, it's finally allowed here, and I was like... I guess, the answer is that there was a drought.
We've been in a drought
We've been in a drought since I moved here, though.
Yeah, like, it was seriously, when I was a kid, we weren't in a drought, and then, like... I want to say since I've been, like, 12, we've basically just been in a drought for, like, 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, every now and then we, like, kind of would come out of it, and it would be like, oh, you can actually water your lawn whenever you feel like this year, but don't water it too much.
Yeah, like, the water stuff is really weird. I don't like how they do that.
Well, it's, like, so, like, a lot of the water... I don't know why I know about this, but like a lot of the water, like we actually have a ton of water in our state. Like we have a bunch of like well springs or like
we definitely
like riverheads and stuff. Like a ton of water comes from the state, but so much of it runs to other states that don't have a ton of water just coming out of the ground that they like the water rights go to a bunch of other places. So we actually have plenty of water for Colorado. It's just that other people need it too.
So yeah, we have to split it.
Yeah, so apparently, so they bought water rights and they get to use our water and we can't use a bunch of it, but which is fine. I mean, I'd rather not kill the rest of our nation.
No, it's interesting to know because I'd always wondered like, what the fuck was gonna stop me if I saved some rain, like.
Yeah, something like that.
Like if I'm like seriously, if I do live out in the woods and like the park ranger comes up and he's like, you got barrels of water here, huh? I'm like,
if the park ranger comes onto your private property, like how's he? They can't do that. So
no, but like they're coming by because you know them from town or whatever, and I'm like thinking in some weird theoretical like The Shining or something.
What kind of asshole like? Oh, I'm friends with this guy. I invited him over to my house, and then he fucking tickets me for collecting rain.
He's not ticketing you, but he's just like he mentions it. He's like, oh, I see you got water here.
If he just mentions it, who gives a shit?
Well, what if he's like, yeah, well, that's illegal, right? Like,
yeah, but I'm thirsty.
What do you say to that? Like,
right.
Well, I guess I'll dump them then, and then they're gonna fill up when the fucking rains again. So
no, you gotta make sure you put those upside down. I'm gonna watch you put those upside down so they can't collect.
It seems so.
It's one of those. There's so many of these things. We're diverging. We're going off on this topic.
Yeah, let's chat for a bit because I have the same issue with like chicken coops.
What about? I don't know anything about chicken coops.
Well, you can have chickens now.
So certainly yes, you can have chickens. But what about them?
What for a while you couldn't
is that a thing that you were just you can't have chickens?
So, yeah.
Yes, well, but that's a zoning thing. I get that to an extent. You can't just have I'm gonna start a refinery here on my.
Well, no, but come on, just do a basic limit of 3 or 4 chickens and
there's a bunch of places. I'm sure the city we live in probably is just no fucking chickens, but there's a bunch of places
Denver,
around.
You can do it in Denver.
I was gonna say Denver Metro. There's a bunch of places around Denver Metro where you can have certain amounts of livestock.
Yeah, I've never seen any other type of livestock because I don't think it's useful.
Yeah, I'm gonna raise a goat in downtown Denver.
Right, I got a cow out back here, that's pretty odd, but
but chickens, because you can basically just put them in box.
They're constantly
they need 20 square feet and they're fine.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
They don't need room.
Yeah,
they fucking make noise though.
That's probably why. If I had to guess so there's a lot of health concerns with livestock, especially chickens.
And then they are birds, they're avians. So.
Yes, they're avians, and they create there's a bunch of ammonia when they poop, and which is cool for your lawn, I guess, but
not good for your pets or anything.
It's not good for anything else, yeah. And then certainly they're noisy as shit, and nobody wants to fucking wake up at fucking 5 o'clock in the morning to fucking
I would have. I used to live next to a little ranch thing by my house, kind of it was just the tiniest little ranch, and I would I'd wake up and I'd go on the balcony and just waking up what checking the temperature,
groggily rolling outside,
checking the temperature basically how's the fucking day,
checking the temperature via my naked body, just
not naked, but close enough.
No, it's a much better image. No. I'm telling that
and
story.
Going out there and just just smelling the zoo.
Yeah,
I freaking live in the zoo. This is great. So, anyways.
But anyways, so there's a bunch of laws. Going back to the rainwater thing and just kind of, to an extent, this chicken coop thing, there's a bunch of laws, like the chicken coop thing, I can see somebody being able to enforce that, because you, sounds like there's chickens here,
Right.
But, again, the rainwater thing, if you own, 6 acres, nobody's going to be able to ever get close enough to see your fucking 3 barrels of water. Or the 60 barrels of water, or the underground tank that you built that's got 12 million gallons. Nobody's gonna see that crap. And it's just I understand that there are laws for a reason, or somebody thought there was a reason. We need that to go into the ground because, our aquifer needs to be replenished, and if everybody's collecting rainwater, then our aquifer's not replenishing, and that's actually a really huge problem.
Yeah.
The problem, the thing about making that law, which is basically punishing the handful of citizens that are trying to collect rainwater, is that the reason our aquifers are low is because we have ridiculous policies about how people pump water out of the ground for farming. It's completely nuts. I don't know if you ever heard anything about it.
I've heard some stuff, yeah. My uncle owns property in the mountains, so there's definitely some weird stuff there.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's because aquifers expand. They're these huge underground things that span across a bunch of people's property. They're not just some little thing under your house.
Right.
The way it's just basically. I mean, it's not basic. It's been a while since I looked into this, but I remember I did kind of read about this, and I watched some documentaries and stuff about this. And it's if you don't use, you're allotted a certain amount of water you can pull out of the ground. If you don't use it, the person next to you can just use your water. They can just pull water out of aquifers. Okay. So we're it's actually a really huge problem is we're draining a ton of aquifers and we're not replenishing them. And then, and it's mostly because of weird, very poorly constructed, farming practices and laws, and poorly constructed, how cities use water and stuff. And those are the things that need to be fixed, not putting goofy laws you can't collect rainwater.
It was so silly to me.
Because it is. It's just, it's such a weird, it's somebody looking and saying, well, these lobbyists won't let us change the thing that's the actual problem, so let's punish people that barely affect something at all. It's what was the California's having the big water problems right now.
Yep.
And they were having the, they jacked up citizens' freaking, the water, the cost of water. Like, just for... It was something, or like, if you went over a certain amount, they just charged you like crazy. Like, something, yeah, so it was like super expensive. So, and like a bunch of super rich people who could afford it are just like, fuck it. And they're just like watering their lawns and getting $10,000 watering bills. And they're like, we can afford it, so fuck it, we're gonna have nice lawns. And they're like, dude, we don't have any water. What are you doing? And like, and they've been punishing just like random citizens that need water to live.
Right.
And there's like this huge problem because there's a bunch of people that do farming in California. Like some crazy shit, like 90% of the world's almonds come from California. Yeah. And it's like, it's the worst possible place to be growing almonds because they have to water them like all frickin' day. Like they require a shitload of water as is, but then you go to this desert environment, and you're like, oh, let's fucking just grow shit that requires a ton of water. So they have to pump all this water into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, so the thing that actually needs to happen is they need to regulate, or at least really make it not worth growing and building and doing things in an environment that is just not good to do those things.
Right.
Totally. Yeah, but they don't want to do that because you make a lot of, you're going to lose a bunch of money that way.
Money.
So then what? Yeah, fucking money. So that's what happens is like they make these weird other laws and stupid, like not stupid, but just like poorly conceived stopgaps that don't stop anything because it's like, oh, we can go after the people using 4% of our water, or we can go after people that are using 86% of our water. Like, we should probably go after a big number, but there's money, so
yeah.
So you end up, but it happens. Like, that happens everywhere. Like California's just an easy example because it's recent and is huge, but like it happens everywhere, and there's all these weird little laws that just like they basically don't ever get enforced. Like I've heard police officers say, like there's a bunch of laws that just don't ever get enforced unless you're trying to screw with people.
Right. It makes sense.
Right, because you're like, you know what, this guy was a jerk, and like I wasn't going to write him for these other things, but he's doing like 6 other things. Fuck this person. You just start going down the list of random shit that you can get him for, and they're just like, why are you piling this on? Like, well, don't be an asshole. And like,
right.
But there's a ton of stuff like that. Just these poorly conceived laws that don't, like, even if they're working, they're not really making a difference.
Makes sense.
So
I know what's happening. It's yeah, I don't know. Just something I noticed, and I was like,
this is bullshit. But anyways,
bullshit.
We can fill our drums with water now, so that's cool.
For now.
I guess I'll go grab myself a 55-gallon and fucking...
Yeah, like, for now.
Yeah. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? So
yeah.
I might as well go out and use every random freedom I have.
Why not? Buy a gun just to buy a gun. Like, the only thing holding you back in this state is if you have, like, a medical marijuana license. But otherwise...
Can they not buy guns?
No. If they're, like, positive that you're smoking pot, they're already hesitant. They're like, this guy's probably a stoner. I don't know if we should give him his permit.
Show up.
But,
like hey,
but if you're, like... If they're positive you're smoking, it's a no-no.
So that's such a weird... So talking about poorly conceived laws, right? So if you're a stoner or a felon, which apparently are now the same thing as far as gun ownership.
Well, they've been the same thing for a while. And then you look next to, like, a person that is an alcoholic and they have 10 guns.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
That's the worst
fucking people that drink are totally, they're not known for being violent or angry at all, right?
Good God, man. Like, it's so fucking ass backward. It's whatever. Alright, let's talk about video games and other shit like that.
Yeah, so let's right angle away from random legal talk.
Yeah, we're just gonna upset ourselves. There's gonna be plenty of, like, political talk and shit, I'm sure, coming up.
Sooner or later.
November's coming up quick, son.
Yeah.
It's coming quick. So I've seen all the kids out that get like $2 per signature for registering voters. So I've seen. Was I with you that one time when we were leaving my family's restaurant and like one of those guys came up to us and you were like a total dick to him?
I don't know.
You were just like, no, I'm good. Get the fuck away from me.
No, so I don't know.
It might have been you.
It might have been
feeling it was you.
I don't remember doing that, but I do remember for a while there I was not polite to street solicitors.
Well, there you go. I'm sure it was probably you then.
Because there was one time in school. No, it's just funny. There was one time in school, and me and the people I hung out with, we'd go get lunch. And we're walking, and I'm just like, I just want to go get fucking lunch. I don't want to have, like, I can't stand street solicitors because they just, like, I'm not walking around so you can fucking tell me that, like, I don't care about the fucking whales right now. Like, and it just, so I would just lose it at them. And we were walking along one time, and this dude starts talking to somebody in my group. And they're like, hey, buddy. And they're just trying to, like, they're just trying to, like, be polite about it. Right. Like, I'm not interested. And they look at me, and they're like, hey. And I just went, what the fuck? For like 20 seconds as I walked past, I just made this noise. And they were like, just like startled and confused. They were like, what's happening? I want
to say what you said to the guy was, I don't care.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm not voting, I don't care, I don't care. I don't care, I don't care. Like, you were just getting the fuck away from
that sounds, yeah, probably.
We'll talk about all this fun stuff later on.
Don't come up at me when I'm walking, fool.
Yeah, we all hate that. I mean,
everybody hates it. Like, I know the people that are out there doing it, they hate it too. I guarantee when they're walking around and somebody comes up and like, hey, I'm fucking sing it. They're like, get away from me. Don't fucking do it.
Alright, let's go to video games, and I mean, it applies to movies and stuff as well.
This is just media in general. Like.
Yeah, it really is. We're going to talk about trailers, like, real
movie trailers,
game trailers, and we're going to mix that in with the general hype culture surrounding all that.
Yeah.
And separate from it as well. Big recent... So if we're going to talk about video games and movies, we're going to do two big recent ones. Mm-hmm. No Man's Sky.
Yeah, so it's a video game that came out a couple weeks ago, probably
about a month ago.
About a month ago, yeah.
About
a month ago.
From September here, about early to mid-August, I think.
It's good. Research. We did a whole bunch of that.
Yeah, we always do research. Anyways,
No Man's Sky, and
then the film Suicide Squad. Obviously, I mean.
Yeah, well, that's that. Yeah, that's an easy.
Trailers were a pretty important factor, and Ghostbusters actually, as to why both of those films didn't do too well.
Yeah, but at least like Ghostbusters ended up being an okay movie. Like people were just like, I mean, it's okay. Like I said, okay.
It's mixed. Yeah, it's heavily mixed.
Yeah, but in the case of like Suicide Squad, that ain't mixed.
No. I had a couple of fans on my Facebook feed, and I was
you found two.
You're crazy.
And the rest of them.
Clearly. No, I don't know. So anyways, so No Man's Sky, I was pretty pumped when I heard about it, because we've had this game called Star Citizen lingering over our heads, right? Like this
freaking Star Citizen,
ugly monster that like most of us don't care about. But
yeah,
there's like 40 people who like donate like $2,000 a month towards this fucking thing.
Dude, so what? Star Citizen's been in development for what, 5 years?
Fucking forever.
Yeah, like
forever.
And it was one of the early Kickstarter successes.
Yeah,
because it started off and they were like, "Hey, let's Kickstarter." It was Kickstarter, right?
99.9%.
Yeah, so they did like a Kickstarter. They did. If it wasn't Kickstarter, they did crowdfunding. Whatever, they were like an early crowdfunding
success. Some sort of crowdfunding success.
Yeah, and they made like a whole like millions really early on, and then they've just maintained that. Like every other game is like, we made our like a couple million, and then they made the game. And Star Citizen has been in development for 5 years.
Well, because they keep saying, give us more like. We're still accepting donations.
Yeah, and they just keep
because they're like, we want to add this, we want to do like you want to do too much is what you want to do. Like that's what you're doing too much. Like reel it back. You can only when you have a game that's releasing in this weird like this alpha meta like
it's
way.
The early access is what they call it now.
Early access,
but it's not finished, but.
All these super pre-alphas, though, for this one, like, they were like, hey, you can look around your ship.
Yeah, I remember when they were just like...
Are you kidding me?
I do remember that. The first release was just
you can explore the GUI? Like, that's fucking fantastic. Yeah, right? Something I don't give a shit about.
I can explore it. I can't do anything with it, but I can explore it.
No, but you could look around. Like, that was one of the first things. You could look around your ships, and I was like, oh, look how pretty it is. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I want to play a game.
Well, see, but for you don't care, but obviously for those people dumping money, and they really do care, and that's important.
I'm a big sci-fi fan, too. Like, that's the funniest thing, is I'm a huge sci-fi fan, and so turned off by this game.
Well, it's so Star Citizen. Like, it's supposed to be an MMO, right? I mean, that's the...
Essentially, yeah. You can do anything, supposedly.
Right, and
or close enough.
To be fair to them, it really seems like while they are insanely ambitious, they're kind of delivering on a lot of it. Or they're at least showing... They
are, but it's, the way they have control of their fan base is weird, because their fan base is totally fine with how long this is taking. Because they're like, well, here's a little glimpse of this. Here, test this. Try this out. Try this. Here's this. And then they'll go back and fix it after they hear the complaints and all that.
So they're doing development a really, really good way.
It's a great way to do it, but I still just have a problem with it. I don't know why. No,
if anything...
How come we went so many years with people just putting out games that were good?
And now it's like a whole...
I'm all like, bleh,
getting a good game to come out just in general is a pain in the ass now, and like Star Citizen's taking like a million years.
Yeah, even shitty games they're like, well, we need more development time, and we're like, all right, thank you, and you say thank you because more development time is good as long as you know what's happening with your game. It's kind of like The Last Guardian. Like The Last Guardian, they stopped talking about it, and I was like, well, what the fuck is happening with it?
Right, everybody wants this.
We're not talking.
Nothing's happening because the guy left, right? Like
kinda. It's
somebody
really
left, but anyways, I don't want to get into that.
Story, is that my main point on that? Was that guy? I don't know. Anyways, so No Man's Sky is...
Yeah, so going back to No Man's Sky.
It's kind of when I first heard about it, I felt like it was kind of like the console version of what Star Citizen was going to be, kinda in a way.
Or like, not even console, but just to say like the...
As far as like...
The much more restrained version.
Yeah, but still ambitious.
Super ambitious.
I mean, how many something like quintillion planets like are...
Yeah, so it's I can't remember the numbers, but in computer science, it's actually not that meaningful of a number. It's basically just like, like every like 64-bit integer that it can generate, it can make a planet for, which that's like it's just it's how many numbers they can put into the pseudo random number generators. So right. On most computers, you can't generate random numbers because that requires something not systematic. You just have to be like, whoa, fucking random number. But in computers, you can do a thing called a pseudo-random number generator, which basically you put some number in, and then it does a bunch of random math based on it does a bunch of math based on things on your computer, like where your mouse is, or what day it is, or just how many files there are on your hard drive. It just picks a bunch of stuff, and it does a bunch of math to this number that you put in, and some other number comes out. So in the case of like No Man's Sky, or when Borderlands was talking about how many, there's a bazillion dejillion guns.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's only so many numbers that they can put in, and they call it the seed. So it just comes down to how many seed numbers you can put in. So so like you can generate a bazillion planets. Technically, that's not... The number of planets it can generate isn't that big of a deal, but like how it generates them is a huge deal.
Right.
And just like how big they are and the scale and scope and like that stuff's a huge fucking deal. But the number itself isn't big.
Yeah.
But anyways,
when you're flying around and the whole thing is about what? Like how would you explain No Man's Sky? Like it's about exploration, really.
Yeah, so
there is an end goal. There is an end goal where you try to get to the center of the universe, and I've heard that was really like, from the people that have made it there already, they're not just like, just like every single planet I'm going to stop at. They were just like, I'm getting to the center
straight
of the universe.
Through, yeah.
They got there, and like overwhelmingly, like people were just like, well, so it wasn't there. Like the way that you can look at this game is like, especially with how it's being rated by everyone and how it's being treated by fans and looked at, you can say it was definitely like a bold experiment in game design, but it was just an experiment. Like it wasn't a game. They didn't figure it out.
It was, so I heard it described as they came up with a really good system, or an interesting system for generating planets, and then tacked a bunch of other stuff on.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And so
like I saw people that like they're landing their planet, like their ship on the planet,
mm-hmm.
and it lands like on a piece of like the flora,
mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's like this
like
giant
Minecraft
ship,
style, just
like this giant ship sitting on a mushroom. You know, like, it was just like, it's so bad.
It's, so to kind of talk about why we're bringing up No Man's Sky is 2 years ago, E3, or 3 years ago? It's 2013, right?
No Man's Sky?
Yeah, when was the E3 that they showed up at?
2014, I think.
2014? Okay, I thought it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like E3 2014. They dropped this trailer for No Man's Sky and it had this really like great like post-rock soundtrack kind of thing going on. It was just like it's the band was 65 Days of Static, which I immediately went out and listened to. I was like, fuck, I really like it's super great background, like spacey kind of just music, noise. I love it. And they had this really great soundtrack, and then it had these really cool visuals, like a lot of weird colors. The color palette was really weird.
Yeah,
and they were like, oh yeah, procedurally generated universe. So there's a gazillion places you can visit. And this trailer, I mean, it wasn't that long. It was like 2 minutes or something.
Yeah.
It showed a smidgen of gameplay, and everybody saw that and lost their minds. Like, I remember, just on this 2 minutes, everybody was like, holy crap, this looks amazing. And it would just look beautiful, and it just looked interesting. And all the stuff that they hinted at, or the stuff that they kind of said, like, oh, there'll be like space battles, you'll be able to travel planet, and everybody was like, this sounds amazing. And like immediately this huge hype train built, because for the last 2 years...
Does it also have drop-in co-op too?
No, so...
No.
The multiplayer thing's a really huge bit of contention with No Man's Sky. One of the... Like, real early on, they never said that there was going to be or they did. They just kind of hinted at it for a while. They were like, oh, you'll never run into people. It's kind of just like... They didn't like come out and say it, and then at one point he kind of did, like Sean Murray, the director, the guy who's like the figurehead of the company that's just been taking a beating.
It's Hello Games.
Yeah,
right?
Of Hello Games, and there was one point where he did say that there was going to be multiplayer, but you just would never run into people because of how big the universe was.
Right.
And there was a lot of things like that. So for 2 straight years, there was just like this crazy hype train that's been building. Just built on a handful of trailers and every now and then some gameplay stuff, and Hello Games and Sean Murray kind of saying and kind of dropping hints about things and kind of like never committing to things, but like really making people like it. I could see how easy it was for people to believe that, oh, they said this thing, and it's like a pretty easy conclusion to jump to say it was going to have some functionality.
Right.
And this went for 2 years, like and it was going out of control, like crazy hype for this. And I think the easiest way to explain it was something that you and we were talking about this earlier yesterday or something, 2 days ago. And it was, like I saw that trailer, that original trailer, and I was like, oh, the stuff they showed in that trailer looked cool. The stuff they didn't show in that trailer must be amazing. Like, that was just the thought that I had. Like, maybe not consciously, but that was totally
it's probably the complete opposite is what they're doing, is they're showing you the best of what they got.
Well, and
they really don't have shit yet.
And I think that's what a lot of people do with trailers in general, right? Is like you see a trailer for something and you're like, they can't have used all the good jokes in the trailer. There has to be like,
and then they do.
Yeah, and then sometimes you find out you're like, oh. And I think that's what happened in No Man's Sky is like everybody saw what was in these trailers and this gameplay footage and was like, wow, this looks amazing. Like, the stuff they're not showing is going to be great. And then it turned out when the game came out that what they were showing in the trailers was basically the entire game. It wasn't even like the best parts of the game. That was it.
Yeah, so obviously this was hyped to shit.
Oh yeah, it went nuts. The hype was
overhyped.
Insane.
Overhyped for sure.
Yeah.
And as far as like what you do in the game, I mean, you really just traverse planets. But then I hear that after about 2.5 hours of gameplay, you completely, like, you just stop giving a shit. Like, what's on each planet. They're all procedural. And that's part of the problem, is that they're all procedurally generated. Like, yeah, that's how they make so many. That's how they're able to do that in the gaming sphere, and that gives them this cool number to spit out to
people.
They
can say that gigantic number.
Which is,
which sounds cool, yeah.
It can sell a game, right?
Apparently.
But... We need to go back. We need to start selling good games again.
So the thing is, like,
because you brought up great again.
Make gaming great again.
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, so you brought up the procedural generation, and I'm actually like a huge fan of procedural generation. I think not because
I have been on occasion.
So I'm not a huge fan in the sense that I think it's always just a great idea. I'm a huge fan in the sense that if you use it well, it's an incredibly powerful tool that can create amazing things.
Yeah, there's no way in hell I would have played Diablo 2 12 times if those dungeons weren't randomly... Like, I knew what I was doing going in there and kind of mindlessly clicking anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But still, if they were all the same and I knew exactly what corner everything was in, like, that would suck. Like, the game wouldn't have been the same.
But because the levels were proc gen, and I actually like the way Diablo does procedural generation is actually really cool.
Yeah.
Is because they actually use prefabbed map things. I don't know about 2, but I know 3 and the Torchlight series does it, where they use like prefabbed rooms. And then they connect all the rooms together. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because 2, I think some of it was a little bit prefab, but yeah, for the most part, it was just like, here's the room and here's some shit.
Yeah, it was just like open areas, and then it would close off and open and close. Yeah,
but it's great. Yeah, and like the entire like all roguelikes are all proc gen, and people like those, and so it's like I think the procedural generation is great. I think No Man's Sky, a lot of people like I've heard their complaints about it are like. The animals that get generated and the plants that get generated all feel kind of like the algorithms aren't wide enough. They don't have enough depth or breadth at a certain point. Like it's just kind of like, I mean, you kind of notice that there's like the same handful of things going into all the animals. You kind of notice that all the plants are all kind of, even the planets themselves, you get to a point where just like, I mean, this one has, you kind of just run into the same features.
And especially not only if you're potentially an ADHD gamer or just a gamer that notices shit like that. Like I notice like the weirdest things in like gaming and movies, and I'm like, hey, did you see this? And everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, what? It's cool. Like no one else saw that. Like
Yeah.
But yeah, so I can see where you're coming from for sure on that one. And we're talking about this hype culture and. Oh, Suicide Squad, man. Like, so neither of us have seen it still, but that doesn't give us, like... I feel like I can still say I told you so.
So, like, this is the thing, like, not having seen it doesn't exclude us from having an opinion about it, because we're not really talking about the movie, we're talking about everything surrounding the movie. And we have seen plenty of the
Holy
discussion.
Shit, I feel like I've seen like all the Joker scenes.
Like we've definitely been a part of the culture and the discussion around this movie. We don't need to have seen it to know that like everybody was hyped and it was super underwhelming. And
so basically, yeah, they released a chunk of trailers that people fell in love with initially, right?
Yeah, I remember those like I saw because you linked me to a trailer early on and you were like, this looks pretty good, and I was
the first few trailers were pretty solid looking,
and I was like, yeah, I mean, this looks okay. I mean, I don't really care about any of these characters, but it looks like this looks like it could be okay.
I feel like this is another part of their problem too, is they didn't have enough characters in there that you cared about. It's like X-Men has those characters like there's those guys out there, they like Cyclops, and, guys, people, I like Psylocke, like these random, like, X-Men characters in their own ways, like, you love them, but then, yeah, so, yeah.
So just going off of that, I got into comics years and years ago, for, like, real hard for a little while, and I remember having a discussion with somebody, like, real early on when I got into comics, and I was talking to them, and they were like, yeah, and the way they described it, which I think is just, it was perfect, and it seems to just continue to be perfect, was that Marvel has a bunch of really great characters, but they, like, their stories weren't that great, and that's actually kind of changed. Their stories have gotten pretty good. They were pretty good when I started reading Marvel stuff.
Right.
But then this person was like, yeah, but DC has had years and years and years of really great stories and really great writers, but their characters all suck. And I was just like, at first I was like, I mean, I guess I'll take your word for it. And then when I kind of got into comics and started looking, I was like, man, I don't care about any of DC's characters. Like, none of them are particularly interesting.
The only one I find interesting that's of the popular vein is Batman, honestly.
Well, it's like they've got Batman, they've got Superman, who I found out was really interesting only because I did a bunch of research on him to write a paper for him, and then I was like, oh wow, he's actually really interesting. And
but when you don't know a lot about Superman, he
sucks. When you just
not interesting.
Yeah, when you look at him
overpowered, on he's this, he's this, like, and you find out how Batman, freaking defeats him all the time is because he has to use this and this and that. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
So the thing with Superman is it's fine that he has a ton of powers. It's fine that he's just ridiculous. The problem is the only stories you can tell with him that are ever going to be any good are stories that have nothing to do with violence, that have nothing to do with any of the things people want in comic books.
Right.
Because it all has to be like really cerebral stuff, because it doesn't make sense for like, oh, he has this problem where he has to punch things. Well, he's Superman. Punching things doesn't matter to him. It's a meaningless solution. So you have to have problems where it's like, oh, he has to think his way out of a thing, or he has to use his powers in like a really like, he has to make like shitty choices, and he has to choose like,
right.
Like that's the only way to make Superman really matter, is to give him a bunch of cerebral stuff, and nobody's ever going to put that in comic. People put that in comics, but they're never going to put it in to the degree Superman needs it to be put in. So he suffers as a character because of that. I mean, it's just, it's not a flaw of his character, it's just a flaw of the industry that he's in, and that sucks for him.
I agree with that.
But yeah.
But going back to Suicide Squad, it's like you look at that cast, and it's like, you have Jared Leto as a Joker, who is apparently super pissed off about this project. And then you have...
Is he? Why? What?
Yeah, he's pissed. He thought it was completely kind of given to him in a different manner. Like, he thought there was going to be more scenes with him, more stories. Like, all his stories that anyone would have given a shit about got cut. So it's like, so he's pissed. And then you have Margot Robbie, who's just kind of like, I'm here. Like,
people liked her. I get like this.
She's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that I've heard from everybody is that they liked her. She was good.
Yeah, I mean, she's the perfect. I mean, if you saw, what was the DiCaprio movie, Wolf of Wall Street?
I've seen part of it.
Oh, you need to see the whole thing. It's a freaking hilarious movie.
It's little I saw of it.
And dark and great. It's amazing.
I saw about 20 minutes of it, and the whole time I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's just the greatest fucking movie. Anyways, so it has Margot Robbie, and then you have an odd choice with Will Smith as Deadshot, and then beyond that,
people liked him.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
but beyond that, do you care and know about these other fucking characters? Like, did anyone really know about, Katana? Like, she was in some other stuff, right?
She has a cool look.
Kinda. If you really look at her costume, though, it's like, oh, that's really cheap.
Again, it's like, so what I saw in the trailer, where I was just like, oh, 3 seconds of, Katana, I was like, oh, Katana looks okay for 3 seconds.
Right? But she's not. So anyways... I know I haven't seen it. I'm going off what I've heard and what I've read from my respected critics.
Yeah, and people just didn't.
And yeah, okay, so let's talk about the trailers, right?
Yeah.
So the trailers were really good early on, and then me and you kind of talked about it. What was it?
Yeah, so they did a bunch of trailers, and then there were reshoots. Like a ton of reshoots.
But the reshoots came from the feedback of the trailers.
Well, so yeah, so they did reshoots. So it was kind of, I don't remember it being confirmed, but it was really, really easy to draw conclusions, and somebody kind of said, really hinted at it, was that in the trailers they were showing a lot of buddy kind of comedy stuff, and people camaraderie things, and the movie apparently didn't really have what was in the trailers was basically what there was of that, and the rest of the movies weren't that way. So then they did a bunch of reshoots, and it was after the trailers, they jacked up how much Joker there was. They added some more comedy stuff,
and apparently they didn't really jack up Joker that much. He's barely in the movie still. Well, that's another thing that's pissing off what's his face, Leto.
Yeah.
But it's not only that, but he's he has a whole movie of the Joker. They could just do a movie of me, And it's well, you fucking, arrogant I like Leto, don't get me wrong, but that was, an arrogant thing. Let's just make me a movie. Yeah, let's just make a movie.
Let's jump right in. Yeah.
Let's just do this.
The DC film universe is just, being god-awful across the board. Let's just throw another one in.
Let's just fucking tank this bastard. Fucking Leto, you got 40 mil? Cool, throw it in. Anyways, it was overhyped. Obviously, we all knew it was gonna be. We knew, in our heart of hearts, everyone knew it was overhyped and it was not gonna be that.
Well, see, and this is the thing. Like I said, with early on for the trailers, I wasn't nearly as on board as everybody else, and I did not get more. The more I saw of it, it just to me, I was underhyping it. I was really just this looks like it's gonna be more DC's. What they've been doing. What they've been doing has been garbage, and or Warner Brothers, not so much DC, but I was not hyped on it at all, but I know a lot of people were like, you had your hopes up.
I had my hopes up, but they didn't. Once I saw Batman vs Superman, my hopes kind of dwindled.
That was probably a good point for your hopes to have done that.
Yeah, but then I talked to you though. Like I still have hope, like with Batman and the Justice League stuff, and I want Joker to have more shit. I think it was wrong of Leto to be like, you should have put more Joker shit in this. I created a masterful character. It's more like, well, let's wait and see. Like Batman, they're writing a Batman movie. Like, maybe you're going to be the fucking main villain in that, and they can go back to that.
I feel like if he's saying that, he's probably not.
I don't know. We don't know yet.
Like, honestly,
who knows? We don't know where they're at in
it's true.
Batman
aren't they?
production.
I thought that was filming already.
I thought they were pre-pro.
I don't know. I haven't looked up that. I don't follow the Batman that much, but regardless, if anything, I'd say we could just use a break from the Joker. Honestly, yeah. I get he's a great character and people love him, and there's plenty of really good stories that can be told with him. I mean, that's a given. It right. Just I feel like it would be really DC. So I think I brought this up in one of the previous episodes. Is one of the things that really helped out Marvel with their cinematic universe is that everybody although they're really well known characters were licensed to other people when they started making Marvel movies, so they had to pull a bunch of characters like second tier popularity characters, characters that were kind of popular in the comics but not so much, right. And they had to make them work and be interesting. Nobody cared about Iron Man before the Iron Man movies,
no, not really.
Right? And so it was pre Marvel Cinematic Universe. You would look at it and say, oh, that's such a terrible position that they're in where they want to make movies but none of their popular characters are there. But it ended up being this really, really powerful position to be in because right. They had to get really creative and how can we make these characters interesting? And they actually built this insanely popular, amazing universe, taking a bunch of characters that just weren't popular and having to figure out how to make them popular. And it ended up being this really great not restriction, but just this weight that they had to carry early on, and it ended up leading to a ton of creativity and great ideas and just doing something amazing. And Warner Brothers and DC have all their great characters, and they're almost relying on just their popularity and making these terrible movies around them.
I mean, but when you barely put the fucking Joker in your movie and it's still bad.
Well, that's the thing. And so I think they don't get what they're trying. They don't understand what they're doing.
How?
So
how? I have a huge problem with this, right? Because how can you be this fucking null? Really? How can you be this null and insipidly fucking stupid? Sorry to say stupid. Anyways, fucking stupid. How can you be so null and so void of what's happening in the public?
Disconnect from...
How are you so fucking disconnected you don't know that the public doesn't like what the fuck you're doing? Ever.
It's especially when you've got these absurdly popular characters.
You're gonna have numbers because you're DC. People are gonna check it out to see if it's any fucking good.
Yeah, exactly.
People have been fans of these characters for fucking years. Years. When I say years, a lot of these people, I had my buddy Henry, Superman fan, diehard Superman fan, right? For Christmas one year, he was my manager at a shop. And for Christmas one year, we bought him, it was Black Friday, we were shopping early. We bought him, all 8 seasons of, Supernatural, or whatever the fucking Smallville.
Smallville, okay, yeah.
And so he's been a fan since he was 4,
there's a lot of people.
Around. So even he thought Batman vs. Superman was good. He thought the movie before that was good. The Superman movie.
All right.
Right? But when you have this diehard fandom,
that's what to say. At a certain point,
it dies really hard.
That's the thing. It sounds like, because I don't know this person, but I can guess based on what you said, is that he sounds like Superman's kind of an integral piece of his life, because it was introduced so early to him, and he's been a fan so long that Superman's just a piece of him. I don't know how to say it any other way than that. It's just right. Superman's a piece of him, and so. And it was what I brought up with the whether or not you should say stupid, and how people if you only have this metric of stupid and not, or unintelligent and intelligent, and if somebody proves that you're wrong about something, well then the only thing you can say is that you're unintelligent. That's a really deep personal attack. this guy and people like that, fans that that really, really hold a character as a deep part of themselves, are going to have an insanely difficult time objectively looking at anything that character is in or does or is presented as, because if they look at it and it's really bad, like, you know, if this guy watched Batman v Superman and was just like, that was terrible, then because Superman's such an integral piece of who he is, then even though it's not true, we're people and we do this. He's going to feel like an attack, like it's an attack on him. He's going to be like, fuck, you know, I really like Superman. If he's in this bad movie and this terrible character and this terrible movie, like, what does that say about me? And like, it's that kind of like
so objective. It really is to me.
Yeah, and it just like, but that's totally things that people do. I mean, that's just how we are. Once something's close to us, you know, you when you get close enough to something, you just can't see it for what it is anymore, just because it's so deep and part of you. Like, so he's gonna like people are gonna like it, even if like some part of their brain's like, man, this is bad.
Right. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
But the rest of us who do not hold these characters dear, we get to watch Batman.
Well, I mean, there's characters that I do hold dear. Like, I knew the only reason I fucking watched Wolverine Origins or whatever was because I knew Gambit was in it.
Yeah, and
I was like, I saw him in the preview. I'm not dumb. I know it's not gonna be great. I still want to see how they pull it off. Like, if they do some crazy like card thing, or, you know, like some really
just do
crazy
something cool with Gambit. God, yeah.
They didn't pull it off. They failed miserably, if anything, to say the very least. But I like, we have these moments too. But like, when you have like a whole film, like, don't be in such denial. Like, especially Batman v Superman. Like, that shit was bad. Like, there's no other fucking there's no redeeming quality. Like, okay, so the redeeming quality was Batman.
I was about to say, like, Batman.
It was Ben Affleck.
I hear a lot of people liked Batman. And
I thought he was great.
Yeah.
I think he's possibly going to be the best Batman.
Okay. We'll see.
We're going to find out. He's writing and directing the next one, and you know I'm excited about
if
that.
If you're the best Batman in the worst Batman movies, like...
Right, it felt out of fucking place. It
was real weird, yeah.
Let's just say I was really upset when I saw, like, a day after Suicide Squad came out, and someone posted on my Facebook newsfeed, was like, step aside, Heath Ledger, even though you're fucking dead. Like... You know, like, step aside, like, Jared Leto is the ultimate Joker, and I was just like, there's no fucking way.
There's no way. There's no way. Like, part of what made Heath Ledger such a great Joker was that he was in a great Batman movie.
That's another part of, and that's why I'm saying let's wait a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I know Ben Affleck wants a Deathstroke to be a pretty main character.
Okay.
But he doesn't have to be.
No, yeah.
We can still use fucking Joker.
So you can use Penguin. Like, I'd love to see, like, a really... And this is totally that thing I was talking about.
You need to watch Gotham, then. If you want to see, like, a modern day, like, a well-pulled-off Penguin, watch Gotham.
Well, so, and this is what I'm saying, is, like, when I was bringing up the Marvel thing, is I'd love to see them not rely on Batman v Joker or Batman v Deathstroke. I'd love to see them just be like, What's a character that kind of, like, people might know about? Maybe like a Riddler or something, or maybe
You mean like a Deadpool kind of?
No, because not like, what's a character that isn't known? Like, what's a rogue that Batman has? Who's a villain that he has that people kind of don't know about, or if they do know about him, he's not that big. And like
Vulcan, like they're using or Vulture that they're going to use Vulcan. Sorry, that was Star Trek.
For
Vulture that they're going to use for Spider-Man.
Yeah, see, right. So Vulture's a great, like, in the comics,
a great character. And we haven't seen anything in the film.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yet. Like, in the comic books, Vulture is... I don't want to say kind of... I didn't really read that many Spider-Man stuff, but I know Vulture, he is a recurring villain. He does come up. He has some popularity in comics fandom. Yeah.
He's great.
He's a cool character. Like, so that's totally a good way to go with, like, Spider-Man is, like, let's pick a villain... Like, let's pick a character that we can't just rely on public knowledge of. Like, we actually have to write a good character. And I'd love to see them do that with Batman. I'd love to see them take Batman and put him up against... You know, a Mr. Freeze that doesn't suck, and like...
Well, we do get these things, but we get them in the form of animation, right? So they have those little animated movies where you can actually... And people write and draw, like... everything is very well done in some of them. Some are bad, of course. There's a lot of misses. Some are fucking amazing. Like I remember back in the day, dude, like early '90s, like Batman: Mask of the Phantasm came out.
So, dude,
holy shit!
What you're talking about is the entire Batman animated series from the '90s.
Well, I mean, I could talk about that.
Well, no, but Mask of the Phantasm was that team,
and
that was
from
that group of people.
Series, yeah.
And that was all amazing. Like, this is the thing. Like, DC is actually really, really good. They're like TV stuff and their animated stuff.
Yeah, Arrow is great. The Flash is great. They haven't failed TV wise.
But their animated stuff is all good. Like, it's all good. Like, they've done a fantastic job in the TV space and in the cartoon space, with the exception of.
How do you just not fucking make a movie?
They did. What was the DC/Warner Brothers recently released an animated movie, and it was based on which Batman? Killing Joke? I think it's Killing Joke.
Killing Joke, yeah.
And it was awful.
I heard it was bad.
Yeah,
I was pretty excited for it because I heard about it.
Yeah.
And I obviously know the novel, like the graphic novel, but
and it's one of the better.
It's one of the better Batman graphic novels, and yeah, I heard it was garbage.
Yeah, and it was people were pissed. That was and I watched a handful of stuff.
I didn't think anyone was gonna fuck with that, and then I heard someone was fucking. They're like, "Yeah, we're making a movie." I was like, "Oh, don't do that.
Don't do that." There's like some things just need to live where they live. Like
really, like that's really the truth.
And it was bad. But
I'm pretty excited. I just wanted to mention because I just saw a little thing about it. Talking about hype, right?
Yeah,
hype culture.
Yeah, so let's bring this all.
I'm fucking excited, right? Because I don't know if you saw Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Did you see the? You didn't see the trailer for that? It's Tim Burton.
No, is this? No, okay, yeah, no, I haven't seen anything about this. Yeah,
looks fucking great.
Does it?
This thing looks fucking cool, dude. Like I've been waiting for Burton to kind of like. Muscle back in
come back to form,
make a good comeback. He's not writing it, so we don't have to worry. He's doing the thing he's really
just applying his vision to this thing, and
totally.
Cool.
It's cast really well.
Okay.
I love Chris O'Dowd, and he's like near the bottom of the casting.
I don't know who that is.
Really? He's a really good comedian.
If you point it out, I'll be like, oh, that guy. But
I'd have to show you a picture.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
But like Allison Janney's in the movie, Judi Dench is in it, Sam Jackson, Ava Green.
I do know her. I like her. She's cool.
Yeah, she plays Miss Peregrine.
Did I tell you about her ears?
What?
So this was pointed out to me, and I can't not see it now. But if you look at her ears are low, like just the way her jaw and her ears and it's not like it's not huge. It's not like they're like 7 feet below where ears are supposed to be, but they're just in this weird enough, like they're like not even like they're like a quarter of a centimeter off of where you want them to be, and once you see it, you're like, what are her ears doing? And I can't ever unsee that. Like her ears are just in the worst place.
Was I the one that made you figure out about Tom Cruise?
Oh my god, yeah, with the teeth, you piece of shit. Oh my god.
So Tom Cruise, if you don't know, he has this. I don't know if it's a problem or anything. I think
it's just a rare occurrence. It's
just the way his mouth is formed. If you look at his teeth, you can actually draw a line down the center of his face, and it will go through the middle tooth, like directly down his face.
Yeah,
like
so
you're supposed to have a gap.
Is it just on the top or on the bottom too?
The top.
Okay, so on the top of on the roof or his upper teeth, on the top of his mouth, he has a tooth directly in the middle.
Yeah,
which most people don't
most people haven't noticed yet. And like now that you guys know, you'll go and you'll look up a picture of fucking Tom Cruise, and you'll be like, "Holy
crazy
shit!"
Tooth in the middle, and it's just like I haven't watched anything with him in it yet since you pointed
this out to me.
Yeah, go back
and watch Top Gun. Something. What? Top Gun was great.
It's
the year we were born, right? Or no, you were born the year before.
As we talked about, not a fan of that period of time.
Oh, but this is like. Fucking like
I'll go back.
Archer.
Look, I'll jump on YouTube and I'll watch like 2 minutes of Top Gun, and that'll be enough.
From all the archers singing the fucking what's the song?
Like in Danger Zone.
Yeah, dude, you need to watch this movie.
I've seen Top
great.
Gun.
It's so silly and great.
I don't want to watch it again.
Another game that comes up when we talk about hype culture,
okay,
obviously, fucking watchdogs.
Random bodies, yeah.
Watchdogs. I was stoked about it. I remember this was back when I was with the GG Gamer crew. and this was a game we all talked about. I had other
everybody
friends
talked.
that were
Dude,
even
everybody.
more
That was another thing. Everybody went nuts on that. Like,
it's a great fucking idea.
Yeah,
it's such a good idea, and from what I hear, they're reforming. They're kind of reattacking the original idea for Watch Dogs 2.
They are making a sequel, but anyways, we'll ignore the sequel. We don't need to talk about that.
Fuck no. Yeah. I don't know anything about it either. Yeah. But so I don't know much about the original. I just know that it did not live up to expectations at all.
Yeah. So they Watch Dogs is No Man's Sky-ish, and it's
like, even if I find this game for $10, I feel like I'm not gonna pick it up.
That's it's definitely a 5 to 10 game. Like, if you saw it for that, I'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll get this. But right. I think the problem is it's just like it would take. I think the amount of time. It's one of those games where the length of it is like totally. You just be sick of it. Like 2 hours in, you just be like, I think I've seen enough of this. And like,
heard a lot about the repetitiveness. You heard the same thing with No Man's Sky, and this is one of the number one problems in gaming is repetitiveness. It's why I didn't really play any Assassin's Creed after the first one.
Which sucks because the second one actually did pretty good. We disagree on that.
I bought the second one, thinking, hoping, reading good reviews. Mm-hmm. I still didn't like it. I don't like stealth games that much, to be honest with you. But I love like Metal Gear Solid. But
because Metal Gear Solid doesn't, you don't have to play Metal Gear Solid as a stealth game. You just run around and be an asshole in that game, and it works
for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, you have to. Well, that's the thing is, like, you can run around and be an asshole, and then every now and then you have to do stealth stuff. But the stealth stuff in Metal Gear Solid it just works well enough that, like, in the parts where you really need to do it, you can do it, and it doesn't feel like cumbersome. You're just like, oh, I'm gonna go this way and sneak and whatever.
I'm ready. I think if we're behind, I think we should have games where parkour is like super fluid and it feels very good.
Mirror's Edge,
it feels great in Mirror's Edge, but that's a different beast. It's a first person
freaking game, yeah. Yeah, like, why isn't there a third person?
The second version came out of that, or the second version came out Catalyst.
Yeah,
and
people didn't like that.
People don't like Catalyst.
Yeah. But it's just why isn't there a third person parkour game? I don't even just thinking about that now.
Wasn't Brink? Was that first and
no, that
third?
was first person, and it had weird third. That game sucked though. Like,
I'm thinking of stuff.
No, that one didn't really have parkour. That just had here and there you could jump over a thing or slide on a thing. Right, it was just not. That was another. That's another parkour game that totally falls into hype culture and trailer stuff, because I remember the original trailer for that. I was like, this is going to be the greatest game ever released. I was super pumped for that. Brink.
Oh, I was like, this would be good. I thought it would be good.
It's like, that trailer was so beautiful, and I loved all the
color palette that they use in that game is fantastic.
Dude, the color palette, the costume design.
Very Borderlands-y, almost.
No,
at times.
I wouldn't call it Borderlands-y, because it still had a realism. It was like cartoon realism versus Borderlands concept art style.
Right, yeah.
So there's definitely, it was cartoony, but not really cartoony, where Borderlands really is cartoony, but the way that they, the weird, because all the bodies in Brink are kind of proportioned weird, where the weight is, where their muscles are, just look weird, and the costumes look great, and the game looked, that trailer, I just want to watch it now. Now that you brought it up, I kind of want to watch the original trailer, because it was just so great, and then the thing that came out was not even close, and then... but yeah, there was the parkour in that game was just kind of not really there, and then Mirror's Edge is first person, but parkour always looks cool when it is when you're watching it, when you're seeing the person roll and jump off of things. Why is there not a third person?
Any fucking developer out there, if you made a parkour simulator, I would probably play the fuck out of it.
Right, so almost to an extent, almost make it like Skate.
Yeah.
Just
if it was like fucking Skate, and they're like, here's a parkour sim, and they just called it parkour,
right?
And I would play the fuck out of it.
Right, come at it with a just really deep, build a really deep mechanical system for navigating an environment and doing really accurate things or really intricate
guys,
things.
My chair is really
it's fucking
anyways.
But yeah, build a really deep system of a really deep movement system to the point that the movement system could basically carry itself. And then and almost, I don't want to say tack on a story on top of that, but just really make sure you have this really great looking system that's fun to play and it's deep, and that would be a really great game. I'd play that.
Yeah, I was
just to watch people
that,
jump on things.
Just seeing, and then you definitely get scored for your accuracy, and just I think it could work so well. I start making it. Someone's got to be making it, right?
Please, yeah,
fucking make it.
Would hope, but anyways, hype culture.
Hype culture. So, I mean, how do you feel about hype culture overall? Like,
yes. So the hype culture. The thing we're talking about is like what makes hype culture exist. What makes there be a hype culture is that we have all like because we just named Brink, Watchdogs, No Man's Sky, Suicide Squad. I mean, like the list goes on of things that had trailers come out and people got like started getting hyped and they were like, oh my god, this is really cool. And then it comes out and it's a super letdown. And the list is actually really long and continuously getting longer. So we call it hype culture because it's like, oh, everybody gets really hyped about things, and then most of that stuff doesn't live up to it because hype is impossible. Like once hype starts happening, it's really difficult to keep it in check.
It's hard to slow that train down.
Yeah, and so it's like, so we have all these
train for a reason.
Yeah, the hype train because just keep going, and we have all these trailers coming out now, and this is the thing. Like we've talked about trailers before, you and I, and I can't stand trailers. Like my thing about hype culture now, my feelings toward it is that I basically just try to avoid all of it. Like, I just don't...
You do. You seem to, from when we talk.
I barely watch trailers. I never go to, like, message boards. I don't follow, like, when developers do, like, oh, here's a quick behind the scenes before the game comes out. I don't watch any of that.
I don't like that.
But not even, but just, like, when people do, like, oh, we're sitting down with a developer today, and they'll do, like, a gameplay demo, and they'll talk about it, like, oh, we're really working on this or that. Like, I don't watch any of it because none of it lives up to the hype anymore. Like, so much of it.
But you're the juxtaposed. You really love analysis.
I love
reviews,
the analytical stuff. I really do. So if a developer comes out and says like, "Hey, we're going to just do a really in-depth talk about how we designed this thing," I will absolutely watch that.
Right.
Like I will sit down and be like, "Wow, that's cool." Like they thought about this, and we were like, "Oh, this is like I'll sit down and watch that." But all the stuff that's literally built to hype, because that's all trailers, all gameplay demos, all the stuff that happens before major games come out is all just built to build hype. That's all it's there for.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't stand any of it because it never lives up to it. You just end up being those rabid No Man's Sky fans who are just like, well, this didn't pay off. Now you're just pissed. And like, I don't want to be like that. So my feelings is that I think it's a system that isn't going to sustain itself. I think people are going to figure out at some point that, like, this is a problem and it doesn't work out and it's screwing us a lot. And it's not going to work out. And I think everybody's going to be angry about it. And sooner or later, everybody's going to be like, this sucks and we're going to get some new system. But until then, I'm just going to sit here and be by myself, not watching trailers.
Yeah, because, I mean, I watch them and I'll ask you and you're like, yeah.
I'll watch some of them.
Yeah.
Every now and then. Like, I watched the God of War trailer when you were like, hey, watch this. And I did that. And I was like, it looks really cool. I really don't think the whole rest of the game can possibly live up to how cool that first trailer looked, but
I would disagree with that. I think Cory Barlog and the crew really know what the fuck. God of War is a series that never has really dropped in quality in any way.
Right, and even when it does, it's still.
And then when they show you the trailers, there's cooler shit in the game.
Yeah, so that's definitely a company where what you see in the trailer is not
Sony Santa Monica when God of War was created with David Jaffe, who was of Twisted Metal fame and some of the random shit. He created God of War. The first one blew my mind. It really did. I loved how the fighting felt like, and then the scope of the game is amazing. Like, there's scenes where, especially in God of War 2, where you'll be like, you have to run across this like random bridge, and then the camera really backs up and like shows you this beautiful world that they built, and it's fucking amazing. And I really feel like the God of War series came out one generation too soon. It
came out right when it needed to.
I disagree because I feel like if it came out during the PS3 360 phase, and they really that was one of the first early working
launch
like
titles,
platform fighters, know. Like, I don't know the word I'm looking for.
Killer apps.
What the fuck? Killer apps? No, what do you? It's like a shoot 'em up, but it's not. Like, it's just an arcade beat 'em up.
Beat 'em up.
There we go.
I'm trying to figure out what you were going for. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful, but I think if just that extra graphical edge when they moved over Just that extra touch of lighting, because it really worked in God of War 3.
Okay.
If it would have been in all of them, they would have been fantastic.
So I think you are in a minority on that one, because I think a lot of people are just fine with how it looked on PS2.
Well, I am too. But I we all wish we have that hope for a remaster on occasion.
I want to say they did. They did. Yeah.
They totally did.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm just saying.
But that's also, so you mentioned a thing about the scope of the games, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say something about the first game. So the first game, you I think you're running around like Greece and you're doing stuff in like Athens or whatever it was. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then like a quarter of the way through the game, you end up in like Pandora's Temple or whatever it was on the back of the Titan.
Are you talking about the maze?
I don't remember. You run across a chain or whatever it was, and you end up on this Titan who has this like city on his back or whatever it was, or like a temple.
World on his back?
No, it's not Atlas. It was.
I'm like, you're in the wrong game.
No, it's. I know it's the first game. I guarantee it's the first, because you're looking for Pandora's box in the first game. I haven't played
the first one in so long.
Okay, so you're looking for Pandora's box, and Pandora's box is hidden in like Pandora's temple. I can't remember what the hell the temple is called.
Right.
And it's on the back of like the last Titan, and he's running. He's just like walking in a circle in a desert.
I kind of remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, like a quarter of the way into the game, you go to that temple. You're in that temple for like basically the rest of the game.
I didn't even notice that.
Dude, so then that's the thing I was going to get at is, when I was playing the first game, I was like super far into it, and I was like, wait a minute, we're still in the temple? Like, I completely forgot that I was in the same freaking place that I'd been in for most of the game as this one area, but it's... And now they did such a good job of making that feel like such a huge and disparate place. Like, you didn't even think...
They really do.
Like, because I didn't think about that. I was just like... Oh, wow. Like, I was playing that game with a friend, and I was like, are we still in Pandora? Wait a minute. We've been here the whole freaking time. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I didn't even notice. Like, and they did a really good job of making this one temple feel completely huge, and like, I thought I was in a city. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. The scoping was done perfectly for those games. A myriad of things were...
There's a lot of things that work in those games. There's some things that really don't.
A couple things that don't. People really didn't like the QTEs, the quick time events.
Well, and there's some real huge story problems, and there's some
real huge... But if you're just kind of playing and
if you just want to just like punch stuff and turn your brain off, you can't do better than God of War.
You really can't. I mean, Bayonetta's up there. There's a couple of beat 'em ups that are up there with it. I don't know. But yeah.
I don't know. Like Dante. What were the original... What are those games?
I didn't play that.
Devil May Cry.
Oh yeah, no, I played Devil May Cry 1, 2, 3...
The early ones, which were really good.
I played all of them.
Did you play the remake? Or the reboot?
Yeah.
GMC or whatever that
was. It was fine.
Called. Was it good? Yeah, I remember
great.
People, like... It came out and people were just like, this is bad. And then I know, like...
Because it wasn't like the Dante that they wanted, and they were being so fucking assholes about the character specifics.
So when it came out, I remember a lot of people being down on it, and since then, I've seen a handful of, like, retrospective looks, and people are just like, yeah, it's actually pretty good.
No, when I play these, like, I want to call them tactical, even though they're not. I mean, in a way, they're tactical, like how you approach the action.
What do you mean, just like third-person action games?
Yeah. Like just how you approach everything. Like I forget where I was going with that.
I don't know.
I was on them. What game were we just talking about?
DMC, Devil May Cry.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter.
Anyways, okay, so we'll just rein this back in. What's your opinion, or what are your closing thoughts on hype culture?
I see. I'm kind of the opposite of you. I like trailers. I will, to an extent, let myself get hyped up, but I'm not stupid. Like I know. Like
you're not foolish.
I'm not foolish. Yeah, sure.
There's a difference. Stupid doesn't mean intelligence. Foolish just means you're doing something pointlessly or ridiculous.
Exactly. So
without foundations.
Yeah, so I mean I don't see hype culture as a big problem. The times that I do see it in, a problem with it is obviously I don't like the way Star Citizen is being developed. No Man's Sky was obviously that didn't work. Like, so we gotta, in general as a public, we gotta reel shit in.
And that's,
in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I surmised.
But I'm not
40 minutes ago.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm not just gonna not watch anything. Like, I want to know about what's coming. Like, I have that like instinctual like I need to know like what's coming out, even if I'm not gonna be like I don't have a PS4 or an Xbox One or a good PC right now. I don't have shit to play games on. I'm playing my 360
to play new games on. You have plenty to play old games on.
Oh yeah. But so I don't have like a dog in that fight. Whatever the fuck you're supposed to,
Yeah, dog in that fight sounds good.
A horse in that fight or whatever.
How can you go to the underground horse fights?
I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about tonight, dude. My back is killing me. Anyways, yeah, I don't. Yeah.
No, so I guess to kind of close it down is that we do agree that this system kind of doesn't work. Not necessarily that we don't like it works
as a whole. No,
yeah,
absolutely.
Like trailers are cool and like
I feel like there should be like just like we have a committee that watches every single fucking episode of Family Guy and The Simpsons and Rick and Morty and whatever. Anything you can think of, and they come back and they're like, you cannot have this in the show, you need to delete this scene. Mm-hmm. I feel like we kind of need to have someone to have a little bit of control of like, okay, like, oops, almost knocked over my drink.
That was really skillful. You just knocked just the top off. That's
crazy. That was fucking amazing, right? God damn it, Dan.
But anyways, no, so it's kind of like the onus is on the creators almost to, especially in the realm of Hello Games and
slow it the fuck down. That's all I gotta say to them. Like, slow it down.
Yeah. So this is the like a really big criticism I've seen of Hello Games and Sean Murray and No Man's Sky was that they just kept putting stuff out there, and that train went nuts, and the hype was crazy, and they didn't do
bitching about how long it took to come out. Are you crazy?
It got the 2-month pushback on release date, and people lost their fucking minds, and people got death threats.
Well,
and all that
people were like, "This game was supposed to come out years ago," and I was like, "No, it wasn't. It was announced in like 2014.
Yeah, like people were just making shit up.
It was just announced. You're just mad that you feel like it.
You're so
That's
hyped.
Another thing. You're so hyped that you feel like you've been waiting years for this thing.
Yeah, and this is the thing is Hello Games didn't do anything. They did absolutely nothing to curtail the hype.
Right.
And that's and a thing that like basically big companies, especially big companies, but like in not doing anything to curtail the hype, they're basically saying that it's our jobs not to get hyped. Even though the entire industry is geared toward hyping people.
Right.
And, like, so that's pretty unreasonable thing to say, or to, like, what the fuck word am I looking for? Not infer, but to suggest, like, silently suggest to people,
insinuate.
To insinuate, that's what I'm looking for,
yeah.
Not infer. To insinuate through your actions to be like, well, it's not our fucking job to control hype. It's absolutely their job to control hype. It's their fucking games. Like, we're putting our faith in you. We're going to give you our money.
Release,
yeah. So
we
like,
see everything.
So I think there should, but like, how the fuck? What system do you build to put that weight on companies and then also make it
difficult and then
expensive?
It means extra money and it's something that's never going to happen. And
it's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I think it's something that's going to be probably self-policed here pretty soon.
And that's
gaming
what I'm saying,
industry is one of the most malleable industries that can do this thing I've never seen other industries do, where they're like, we have a distinct problem here, okay, like, let's go back on it, let's talk about it, and just fix it.
The game industry, until recently, they've been shit. That's what I'm saying. The last decade or so has been a really,
I'd say 5 years, yeah.
Well, okay, so the last few years certainly have started to get problematic, but I would say the last decade has really been like a really huge decline in how the industry functions as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because absolutely for like the entirety of our childhoods, like, hey, we're about to get, like, the whole violence thing came up, and they just found an ESER, and we got ratings, and they were just like, no, we'll police ourselves, we'll just deal with this, and like, they fix problem, they just do stuff, and it was really great for a long time, and then recently it's been just not, and that sucks.
But when, the cool thing that we all can fall back on is when the hype culture works, it's great.
It's awesome when it pays off.
When it pays off, man, GTA 5 came out, so much hype for that game. I had so much hype, I was like, me and all my buddies, we were just freaking out about GTA 5.
It looked good.
It came out and they killed it. It's great. I thought a lot of the side questy type stuff I've never really been interested in GTA 5.
Yeah, all the like I can do yoga.
Like this one, it's like hunting, it's like this, and it's like it's not that interesting. It really isn't. Yeah, the races are fun, but otherwise, I don't care too much. But as far as like the game goes, I thought the ending sucked. That's about it. The story otherwise was fantastic. The way you moved along 3 different people the whole time, really well. The narrative really well played out.
The narrative, the mechanics, like it just works.
It works. The shooting mechanics finally feel like you're supposed to be doing what you're doing in a fucking Rockstar game.
Cool.
Like they finally did it, and so yeah.
And I was just gonna say, because you brought up all the side stuff, and whether or not you like it, somebody out there probably does like it and really pulls a lot out of it. And
absolutely,
it gets to another conversation that we had. And I don't know if we had it on this, but it's like everybody plays games differently, and games that facilitate people playing it the way they want to play it. That's like a really cool thing, and that allows that game to draw more people in. But from a developer perspective, if you're thinking about your game on that like scope, and you're really like, what decisions will people make in this, and you can really think about like what people want to, decisions that they make, and like things that they want to do, and how they want to engage with the game, you end up thinking about your own game in a much like bigger way,
right?
And in a much deeper way, and it allows you to build like the Metal Gear Solid games are a great example up until 5. Like there were so many like little tiny things that you could do and you could affect, and like how Kojima would like you could like shoot birds and people would call you and be like, "Why are you shooting birds?" And you could just like sit in you could just sit in a room for like 20 minutes and be like, "Dude, what are you doing? Get off your ass." And like the fact that that they thought about those games on that level ends up building a better world and a better game, because they're like, oh, they're looking for the cracks in their own universe.
Totally.
Yeah, and so like especially with like the Rockstar and the Grand Theft Auto games, when they're building those games on that level and looking at all those little things, it allows them to look at the game and see all the like more cracks in it and fill those cracks. And
how do you feel about the rare occasion? I don't know how rare it is, but the rare occasion that, and you're gonna figure out what I'm talking about pretty quickly, but that a game comes out and then a multiplayer community starts to form, and that multiplayer community completely reforms what the developer had intended initially. So but it works for the community, but not the developer.
Not the developer. So that's one of those weird cases, or like
we're talking about Half-Life.
Yeah. So the original Half-Life, there's a weapon. I mean, you want to explain it if you want.
Yeah. So there's a gauze cannon or
Tau cannon, yeah.
Rifle, Tau cannon.
Wow, you just flipped both of those. Yeah, gauze rifle and Tau cannon.
Wow, that's funny. Anyways, this is the Tau cannon, and basically what it does is, I really don't want to explain this.
No, okay, yeah.
You're
so
the game coder, designer.
So there's this one weapon, and when you can charge it up, and when you fire the charged version of this weapon, it makes sure it adds a bunch of velocity to your character, like it pushes you back really hard.
Right.
And people figured out that if you jump up in the air and do this, it flings you through the air really, really fast.
Right.
So you went from this game where you were just like running around at whatever speed you were running around at, to this game where you could fly, like just wing yourself around at 1 million miles an hour.
Really whip yourself around the levels, and
it felt great.
The developer put this in as like hey, if you use this charge up, it's gonna knock you back a bit. You're gonna be a little flustered, maybe.
Yeah, it was just.
I don't think they saw that we were gonna create an entire
way of playing the game
system. Yeah.
So it was.
We really changed the game completely.
Yeah, no. So they actually said that. There were like, I can't remember. Maybe it was.
Did they come out and say that?
Yeah. Somebody said that like we did not expect people to play. Like that was a thing that they just didn't like. It just didn't come up. And then one day somebody was Tau jumping and flying around the map, and I was like, holy crap! And yeah, that was emergent gameplay that they just hadn't considered.
Because they didn't pile onto it. They didn't jump onto that world. They let it be its own thing.
Yeah.
But I was surprised they let it be its own thing, to be honest with you. Like, I was like, they're gonna key up on this, and all of a sudden we're gonna have maps that are just tunnels, and like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, yeah, like maps that fit the gameplay of just running around and
flying around.
Or no, yeah, the flying around thing. Yeah, and it's just I mean, the question you asked was how I feel about it.
And that's okay.
Yeah, so really, question. It's just so when this happens, it's a weird situation.
It's not how you feel about it. Like, what do you think the developers like? Because you're writing a game right now.
Yeah, and like, what if I release my game and there's something that I didn't think about, and then everybody starts doing it that way?
But make sure it's a simple thing that's already implemented in your game.
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, so what if there's something that I put in there?
You're making an open source game, so that's different.
Yeah, but to put myself in, like, Valve's shoes almost, is like, what if I release my work, and there's something in there that I put in, and I expected it to be used a certain way, and I just never, like, expected it to be used other way, and I didn't see anybody use it that way, and then all of a sudden
it's not necessarily better or worse.
Yeah, it's just like a different way of doing something, and somebody picks up on it, and they start doing it, and it's like, how will I deal with that almost? Like, what would I do? Like, these people are playing the game that I made in a way completely different than the way that I intended it to. Like, how do I deal with that? And I think there's two ways to deal. There's a bazillion ways to deal with that, but there's two simple ways to deal with that. For me, it's like the first way is if I like what they're doing, and I'll probably just run with it. I'll just be like, well, this is how it works now, and I'll just try and make that work better and try and figure out, like, okay, because usually in that situation, that thing is overpowered in some way, or it breaks some other mechanics. So then I'll start thinking about, like, oh, okay, how do I change these other mechanics to reinforce this thing and make this the key mechanic, or make this one of the key I'll try and figure out. I'll just run with it if I like it.
Right.
In the other direction, and I'm actually fortunate, there's a bunch of weird things that are actually, like, really beneficial in going open source, because I can just say, you know what, I don't like this. I don't like the way this is going. I see that you, like, other people out there like it, and because it's open source, I can just chop it off. I can figure out how to make that thing go away and say to somebody else, like, hey, if anybody wants to make this, go nuts. It's open source. You can go use it. I'm going to be cool with, like, all my art assets will be usable. I mean, you guys, there can just be a parallel game that somebody else develops. Like, have fun. Like, if it really comes down to, if I feel engaged and want to work on that and I like that direction, then I'll take it that way. And if not, it's going to have to fall to somebody else, because I'm not going to work on something I hate just because, and I say hate, I'm not going to work on something that I really don't like and I'm not interested in just because, like, a community wants me to. Like, I get, and even saying that, I'm hearing myself say that, it's like, well, I'm not going to do things because people want me to. And it's like, well, I probably will to some extent. I'll absolutely do things to facilitate it if somebody else wants to work on it. Like, and that's like modding. It's like Valve-wise. Like, hey, if you guys want bunny hopping and tower jumping, go nuts. Like, I'll absolutely help people out that want to do that. I just, if it's not something I'm interested in, I may not pursue it myself.
Right.
And it's, But yeah, I think emergent gameplay like that's really cool when people figure out things.
I never thought about it in those words exactly, but I think emergent gameplay is exactly the way to put it. And we really did have an impact on that game and the whole fucking community and how that was shaped. And I think it was without that community and how we played that game, I'm not sure if Counter-Strike would exist.
Oh, absolutely it would. No, it would.
You think so?
Yeah, so... Because Counter-Strike released really soon after Half-Life.
It was early, but I felt like, weren't they working on it in a different engine?
So, actually, yes, they were working on it. Min Lee. Min Lee?
Goose. You're talking about Goose.
He's Goose?
He goes by Goose.
Cliff. Who's the other guy? Jesse Cliff?
I don't fucking know.
I can't remember. I think it was Min Lee.
Goose, though.
It was Goose. I think Goose, he was actually working in Quake 1, and he released a mod called... I want to say it's Navy SEALs. I actually played it when I was looking at...
Was it Navy SEALs?
I think it was Navy SEALs.
Okay.
And it's funny because I played it when I started getting into... Because I'm using Quake 1 engine, and I was like, oh, look at what other people are doing. And I was like, oh, the Counter-Strike guy made this. And I played it, and it's like the same hand models, the same, like, M4 model. There's, like, goofy headshots stuff. I was like, whoa, this is... Like, it's so weird coming at this point in time to look back on that. And be like, Jesus, this is... Like, a bunch of stuff from Counter-Strike is like, this is the incubation chamber for it, and that's actually pretty cool. But so he worked in Quake 1, and I want to say that came out kind of far before Counter-Strike. I want to say Navy SEALs was like multiple years before Counter-Strike, but he was also like really young, and so this was probably something he was just like working on in spare time. And but yeah, so saying, like, I really think Counter-Strike happens regardless. Like, regardless of Half-Life and Half-Life's multiplayer, just the fact that Half-Life had the locational damage and got popular like it did just as a single-player experience, Counter-Strike happens regardless, like that.
Yeah, you're right about like the locational damage. A lot of games weren't doing that.
Yeah, so specifically Quake does not have locational damage.
Right.
It has headshots in Navy SEALs, but it's like really hacky the way that it works. You can like shoot over like their shoulder and it hits them in the head and like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so just Counter-Strike happens regardless. Like that thing.
Okay.
I think that was inevitable.
It's just a thought.
No, and it's because you don't have that background and all this random shit that I do.
Right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up on that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good.
That was, we really talked about one subject, but I'm fine with that. I thought it worked really well, and it's, there's a lot of stuff happening, guys. Like, I'm kind of, like, bewildered at the moment, because I'm trying to figure out all the stuff that I want to do amidst having to work.
Life. You're trying to figure out life.
Amidst life, yeah.
Here we are, we're having our midlife crises.
Right. Yeah, you're here for our midlife crisis podcast. No. It's just, I want to spend more time gaming and doing all this other stuff. I want it. So, we have some stuff planned.
Yeah, we're going to try and branch out a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to branch out and do some video gaming for you guys. And just some chatting, man. Like, really like chatting and getting deep into like this industry and even
or
like
into life, into whatever.
Yeah, into whatever. Like we
really,
can really spawn this thing.
As much as we like this show, it would be cool if this show and other things that we did were really focused. But honestly, like I was thinking about this, is like we're just not super focused people like that.
We're not those type of people, and it's not really a thing. I don't want to do a show like that. I want to do a show that's not like laser focused and like I just want to chat, man. I just want to shoot the shit, and I hope people like listening to it. I know I used to like listening to it. I used to listen to a ton of podcasts, dude, and people were literally talking about nothing. It was Seinfeld the podcast over and over and over and over, and I listened to the fuck out of it. It's what I did. I like doing it.
Yeah.
So with that said, we will at some point here in the near future be offering this on iTunes and Spotify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah.
This is the plan.
I don't know anything about Spotify, but we'll figure that out.
I did not mean Spotify.
Okay.
I get them confused with SoundCloud very easily.
Okay. Cool.
So SoundCloud and iTunes, we will be working on doing stuff for you guys. So I know it's hard with YouTube. Right now, check out YouTube Music. I don't know if you've checked this out. You don't use a phone, though.
No, what's YouTube?
So YouTube Music is it's a new app that I found, and it kind of does everything in playlists, and it's similar to Pandora.
It just rips the audio out?
No, there's video as well,
okay.
I believe, if you want, but you can like turn it off, like just boop, turn it off.
Good, great. So what YouTube should already do. Cool.
Exactly, and so I believe it's in beta, and YouTube Music it's pretty cool. So try looking our show up on that if you're having problems with the show. Like I know YouTube on phones that goes to the background and then the audio turns off. And that's really hard for a podcast to do.
Because it's just a browser window.
Yeah, so, I mean, if it's a browser, if you're on your computer, you're fine.
Yeah.
But if you're on your phone or your tablets, we know that there's issues, guys. So we're working on that. We're going to get this thing out on a couple of different platforms.
Yep.
Platform Z, and then we're going to do something else. We're going to play some games. A lot of older stuff, I think. A lot of NES and...
Cartridge era
gaming, but we are going to do some PS1 as well. We have plans. Just give us some time, and it'll be fun.
Yeah,
the Shut Up and Talk to Me network will expand on its own.
Just the Shut Up network.
Just shut up. And we plan to have a lot of fun with it. So we hope you guys continue to listen and join us. Dan, where can they find you outside of just listening to you?
I am on Twitter at xthodan, which is XTHODAN.
I'm on Twitter at TrackerUndertow. You can also search for us on Facebook. Shut Up and Talk to Me podcast, and you will find us. And we are there to chat and talk, and it's been pretty dead. I need to really get on that and kind
of.
We
both need to really get on that.
Yeah, you need to get on some shit too. We need to both really do our shit. But anyways, you guys have a great one, and we will see you next week.